Good morning once again. Let's continue with the second part of defrost, where we will talk about the different types of defrost that are available in the market. My name is José Aceituno Repullo, and I am part of the training area in the engineering department in Intacom. We will divide the content into three main parts: defrost process, defrost types, and an overview table of defrost types. To determine the thermal energy required to melt the frost accumulated in the evaporator, you must first know the volume of frost generated. As we saw in the previous video, the amount of dehumidified water depends on the difference in absolute humidity in the inlet and outlet air, as well as the flow rate of the air. First, we calculate the sensible heat, which is the energy required to bring the frost to 0 degrees from its current temperature, where Qs is the sensible heat of the frost, M is the kilograms of frost, Cp is the specific heat at constant pressure of the frost, and delta T is the temperature difference between the current temperature and 0 degrees. Then we calculate the latent heat of fusion, which is the energy required to change the frost from solid to liquid, where QL is the latent heat of frost, M is the kilogram of frost, EL is the latent heat of fusion, and the total energy required for the frosting is the sum of sensible heat and latent heat. Finally, the defrost power depends on the time available to melt the frost, where PD is the defrost power and T is the time in seconds. The common process is as follows. Defrost startup. First, we close the refrigerant solenoid to prevent further refrigerant from reaching the evaporator. Emptying the compressor continues the draw the refrigerant from the evaporator coil until it stops due to the low pressure or pump down, storing it in the liquid receiver. Next, compressor and fans shut down. In addition to stopping the compressor, the fans are also shut down to prevent hot air from flowing to the room during defrost. Next, heat input. Regardless of the method of defrosting, the main principle is provide to heat to the accumulated ice in order to melt it. This heat can come from different sources. End of defrosting. Defrost can be terminated in two ways, by temperature or by time. By temperature, the defrost probe detects a temperature above 0 degrees and stops defrosting when its temperature is reached. By time, a specific time is set in the system parameters, stopping the defrost at the end of this period. Also, parameters can be considered as delay time. Drip time allows the water to drip and the evaporator to cool down, reducing the thermal shock. Fan delay or dry time. The solenoid opens and allows the refrigerant to circulate through the system without the fan operating, facilitating gradual cooling. Injection time allows water to drain from the evaporator and evaporate the liquid accumulated in the evaporator. And the evaporator drain. The accumulated hot liquid is removed. A real case of hot gas defrost in the BCV LD 1028 unit, which uses the XW60LH regulation. In this unit, defrost is terminated at a temperature of 20 degrees. When the defrost relay is activated, the fan is switched off and defrost stops when the proof reaches the set point temperature. At this point, the compressor stops, and after a while the defrost solenoid closes. The system then resumes operation in cooling mode. There is a delay of the fan startup that during this period the evaporator is cooled by natural convection with the air in the room, avoiding thermal shock. The location of the temperature proof is crucial to ensure effective defrost. This proof must be placed at the last place where the ice melts, at the most unfavorable point of the evaporator. This ensures that detecting a temperature above 2 degrees you can say that all the ice has melted. For optimum location, the proof should be close to the expansion valve and away from the defrost heater. This avoids inaccurate reading and could stop defrost prematurely. In the refrigeration system, some defrost processes provide more heat than others to melt the same amount of ice. The most effective defrost will be one that generates the necessary heat and requires the least consumption in a given time. We will talk about air defrost, electroresistant defrost, hot gas defrost, hot glycol defrost, and reverse cycle defrost. Also, it's essential to consider the impact of defrost on stored products. For example, ice cream and frozen foods. If their temperature exceeds minus 17 degrees for an hour, it can compromise food safety. Red meat above 2 degrees starts to darken due to the oxidation, or fruits and vegetables that are more resistant and can tolerate longer periods above 5 degrees without significant damage. Other factors, such as size. The physical size of the equipment is important in determining whether it can accommodate the piping required for hot gas or glycol defrosting. Simplicity of the system. The complexity of the defrost system must be manageable, both in installation and maintenance. And economic cost. The price of the defrost system is also crucial, a factor to consider. An efficient system must be cost-effective and efficient. Air defrost is a method in which air from the room is used to defrost the ice accumulated in the evaporator. This method is especially recommended for rooms with indoor temperatures above 4 degrees. For lower temperatures, air defrost would be ineffective. Let's see how this process works. First, closing the liquid solenoid valve. The solenoid valve is closed to stop the flow of refrigerant into the evaporator, and next empty in second part. Fan operation. The evaporator fans remain in operation, recirculating the air in the room. If unpackaged products are present, it is necessary to regulate the fans to prevent the projected droplets from damaging the products. End of defrost. The defrost is terminated by time or temperature, depending on the system configuration. This method is essential in systems that require special humidity control, such as in fruit and vegetable rooms or warehouses, but is also commonly used in workroom equipment. The air defrost system is commonly used in high-temperature evaporators such as double flow, low profile, and cubic evaporators. Intercom also has specialized equipment for wine cellars, both for bottled and wine in barrels. Finally, Intercom has compact industrial high-temperature equipment such as the Air 290 Superblock for high temperature. In electrical resistant defrost method, embedded heating elements are used inside the evaporator to heat the surface and melt the ice buildup. This method is widely used in commercial and industrial systems that require precise control of the defrost process. The process is very similar to a standard one, where the liquid solenoid is cut off, the compressor is drained, and fans and compressor are stopped. Then, the electric heating elements are activated, which are sized to provide the heat required to melt the frost in the desired time. The appropriate time delays are applied and the defrost time is terminated. The advantages of electrical resistor defrosting: precise control. This method allows precise control of the defrosting process, ensuring that the right amount of ice is melted. Automation. The activation of the electrical resistor can be programmed to perform automatic defrosting at a specific time, facilitating system operation. Minimal impact of refrigerated area. Although heat is generated, the temperature rise in the refrigerated area is controlled and does not significantly affect the stored products. On the other hand, disadvantages, such as high energy consumption. This method tends to consume more electrical energy, as it requires the activation of heating elements to generate heat with a cup of one. Temperature increase in the room. The activation of the heating elements can rise the temperature of the room above the usual values, which can reduce the quality of preservation of the products. It is not very controlled. Regular maintenance is necessary to ensure that the heating elements are working properly and to avoid operational failures. The use of electrical resistor is widely spread, being a simple solution to implement and control with it is used, for example, in medium and low temperature evaporators such as double flow, low profile, cubic or freezing tunnel, or even in split units that use intercom such as Sigillus and intersplit. Hot gas defrost is an effective method for removing frost from evaporators in the refrigerant system. This method connects the compressor discharge directly to the evaporator after the expansion system. It takes advantage of the heat produced during the compression of the refrigerant. In this system, the compressor heat generated after compression of the refrigerant is recovered and used to melt the defrost in the evaporator. This process is especially effective in refrigerant plants that require frequent and efficient defrosting. Hot gas defrost is technically simple system where the location of the heat source is now at the same point as the cold generation, making defrost more efficient while consuming less energy. To ensure safe and efficient operation of hot gas defrost, certain precautions are essential. Prevent liquid backflow to the compressor. It is crucial to ensure that only hot gas and not liquid returns to the compressor, as liquid can cause serious damage. Prevent mixing of hot gases or liquids with cold liquids. This helps to reduce implosion phenomenon and vapor collapse, which can damage the system. Prevent pressure shock. When opening steam lines, care must be taken to avoid pressure shocks. Or prevent liquid expansion in the suction line. It's important to prevent liquid from expanding the suction line, which could cause operational system problems. Consequently, we can adopt safety and optimization measures such as liquid suction separator. To avoid liquid hammer, a liquid suction separator can be installed. Suction pressure regulating valve. Control the hot gas injection to ensure that the suction pressure does not exceed the set value, avoiding thermal overload of the compressor. Or suction pressure limiting valve protects the compressor from thermal overload. For effective hot gas defrost, it's crucial to set the right operating condition. We need the temperature in the evaporator to be above 0 degrees to melt the ice. To guarantee this process, we consider a temperature about 7 degrees in the evaporator. This is this line. It must be located inside the compressor envelope and at a temperature at least to the right of the 0 degrees isotherm, allowing the ice to melt effectively. This is the zone in yellow. In addition, we must ensure that the suction pressure doesn't exceed 1.2 bar relative to avoid excessive temperature rise at the compressor discharge and prevent high pressure shutdowns. The location of the discharge varies depending on the pressure drops in the hot gas defrost circuit piping and fittings in addition to suction point. It is essential that this zone is also maintained within the compressor envelope and is at a temperature sufficient to melt the ice. From a point in the suction area, the compressor compresses the gas to a point in the discharge area. This process is illustrated in the figure below. From the suction zone, the gas is sucked in and compressed by the compressor, increasing its pressure and temperature. The compressed gas reaches a point in the discharge zone where the heat required for defrost is released. Routes from discharge point to intake from the discharge point. There are two possible routes we can take to continue the process. Path 1, pressure isobar and then isenthalpic expansion. And 2, pressure isobar, the hot gas, follows a line to constant pressure. Isenthalpic expansion, then the hot gas expand isentalpically, reducing its temperature and pressure until it reaches the evaporating temperature, or path 2, expansion first and then isobaric cooling expansion. The gas expands initially reducing its pressure, and the gas then cooled at constant pressure until it reaches evaporation temperature. Here, the actual defrost is represented by a green line, which indicates how the process handles pressure drops in both the discharge and suction lines. Actual defrost analysis. This line illustrates the first one, the actual path taken by the gas from the point of discharge to its reintroduction into the refrigerant system. Next, during the defrost, it's common to experience a pressure drop in the piping. This is due to the several factors, such as the resistance of the gas flow through the pipes, fittings, and the evaporator itself. The pressure drop implications, such as the frost effectiveness, positive pressure drop, can affect the efficiency with which the hot gas melts frost. Increased pressure drop may require system adjustment to maintain the frost effectiveness. Need for system adjustment, it might be necessary to adjust compressor setting or even modify piping to optimize flow and minimize pressure drop. A critical aspect of hot gas defrost management is the avoidance of liquid hammer to the compressor. These risks arise when the refrigerant fails to evaporate completely before returning to the compressor. The liquid hammer hazard risk solution is during defrost. If the refrigerant doesn't evaporate completely in the evaporator, it returns in a liquid state to the compressor. So this situation is undesirable because the compressor is designed to compress gases, not liquids. In consequence, liquid increases the compressor possible damage and can cause several mechanical damage, seal damage, or even compressor seizure. We now explore the 3-pipe hot gas defrost system, an efficient and simplified alternative that optimizes operation and reduces thermal stress on the evaporator. By means of a pressure switch valve, the hot gas pressure coming from the compressor station is reduced to 1 or 2 bar above the evaporating pressure. This expansion reduces the temperature of hot gas by 10 or 15 K, reaching temperatures of approximately 60 or 50 degrees, depending on the working pressure of the compressor. The gas at low pressure and moderate temperature is introduced into the evaporator through the inlet of the distributor, where it gives up its latent heat and cools down to a temperature slightly above 0 degrees. Then, the gas returns to the compressor through the suction line, without the risk of liquid condensation. The main advantages are simplicity. This method is relatively simple, as no additional components are required for defrosting, low initial cost, no additional reversing valve or other specific components are required for defrosting, lower cost than other systems such as electric. Regulation is simple as it controls only the defrost solenoid. The hot gas is introduced at low pressure and at a lower temperature than in the 4-pipe system, so there is no mechanical or thermal stress on the evaporator. As disadvantages, no heat recovery. Unlike the 4-pipe system, the 3-pipe hot gas defrost does not recover heat from the compressor plant, which means that all the heat for defrosting comes from the compressor's own electrical consumption when recompressing the gas, and limited system cut of defrost heat generation is close to unit, indicating that the energy efficiency is relatively low compared to systems that can recover heat. The 4-tube hot gas defrost represents an advanced technique that uses cycle reversal in evaporators to optimize frost removal by using the condensing heat from the compressor. Let's look in detail at how it works and its implications. Hot gas introduction. gas from the discharge line is introduced in the red line of evaporators to be defrosted. Evaporator cycle reversal by means of a set of valves in the sucking and defrost line, the evaporator cycle is reversed. This may involve a root change in working pressure, which is handled by a small bar pressure balancing valve installed in parallel with pilot or slow opening valves to mitigate shock waves and leakage hammer. A pilot operated differential pressure valve is used in parallel in the discharge line to create a differential pressure of between 1 and 2 bar, thus artificially increasing the discharge pressure of the compressor. Once it has passed through the evaporator and partially condensed, it can circulate back to the liquid line, the orange point, and returns to the condenser. The main advantages: increased energy efficiency by keeping the compressor running, additional energy consumption associated with system startup is avoided, lower temperature impact by maintaining continuous operation, the temporary rise in temperature of the refrigerant space is minimized, recover condensing heat from the compressor for defrosting the evaporators. However, this heat recovery is not completely free of charge due to the penalty in compressor consumption. The COP of the defrost hot recovery is higher than 3. On the other hand, disadvantages are complexity, requires additional components such as a reversing valve to divert to hot gas to the evaporator during the defrost, a higher initial cost. The installation of additional components may increase the initial cost of the system compared to the 3-tube method, and if this synchronization is omitted, less than 10% of the evaporator are allowed to defrost independently, the COP can become less than 1. For example, the penalty in power consumed by the compressor can be higher than the heat recovered for defrosting. Next, to reduce the thermal and mechanical stress on the evaporator, as well as to reduce the transient effect of the cycle change, it is not recommended to carry out very frequent defrost cycles with the system. In this case, on defrost demand on one evaporator, the refrigerant demand of the one evaporator and the opening of the hot gas supply solenoid valve must be forced. It is required for each defrosting operator that there are at least 2 other evaporators in refrigerant demand. Units that use hot gas defrosting in intercom are commercial compact equipment such as door interblock, the intertop, and interblock unit. And on the other hand, for medium and low temperature compact refrigerant equipment are superblock with R290 refrigerant. To examine the possibility of switching from electric defrost to hot gas defrost in a 143 kilowatts medium temperature plant, several key factors must be analyzed. These include the heat transfer capacity of the hot gas, the enthalpy difference in the system, and the ability of the evaporator to handle the changeover. Here, we detail the calculation and evaluation process for an 18.75 kilowatts electric defrost conversion for each evaporator. To calculate whether it is feasible to switch to hot gas defrost, as we saw in the first slide, it's necessary to determine the gas mass flow rate required to achieve a heat output similar to the electrical output currently used for defrosting. In our case study of the feasibility of hot gas defrosting, we have calculated that a single evaporator requires 925 kilograms per hour of hot gas for the defrosting process. Now, let us analyze the total mass flow production of the plant and evaluate the ability of the system to handle multiple defrost cycles simultaneously. According to Select 8, the plant produces 8,500 kilograms per hour under a total load of 143 kilowatts. In a case of 2 evaporator defrost scenario, we would need around 2,000 kilograms per hour of refrigerant, leaving 1,700 kg/h available in the plant, which would be equivalent to a power of 70 kilowatts, so we would allow the third evaporator to operate at full load. And the question is it possible to switch from electric defrost to hot gas? It depends. Hot gas defrost is possible in systems where the evaporators are small or the heat demand for defrost is low, as in the system illustrated above. In addition, it is crucial to manage the number of evaporator defrosting simultaneously in order not to exceed the capacity of the system. In the example with R134, the conversion could be carried out, although it is recommended to study each case. In CO2 systems, a viable scenario will be in systems that serve only one evaporator at a time, one-to-one systems, allowing the entire mass flow of the plant to be dedicated to defrost. In the case of more evaporator, you need to study each case. Now we look at defrost by cycle reversal, an efficient technique that takes advantage of the reverse functionality of refrigerant systems. This method transforms the evaporator into the condenser and vice versa, similar to reversible heat pumps, to perform defrost quickly and energy efficiently. First, defrost startup. During the defrost, the fan in the room stops and the four-way valve changes the direction of the refrigerant flow, directing it to the evaporator. Next, the heat transfer. In the evaporator, the evaporator, now acting as a condenser, receives the hot gas condensing on its surface, transferring heat to the accumulated ice on effectively melting. Continuation of the cycle. Now the refrigerant as liquid continues its journey through the system, again passing through the filter and thermostatic valve to the condenser, which now acts as evaporator, completing the cycle. In the Molaire diagram, we can see how the entire condenser power corresponds to the defrost power, which includes both sensible and latent heat of condensation. So the defrost power will increase. Advantages of reverse cycle defrosting. The energy efficiency by using the heat from the compression and the evaporating process. This method is more efficient and consumes less energy compared to electric defrost. Speed of execution. The defrost is carried out very quickly due to the provision of the full condensing power. Location to the heat source. The heat source generated during the defrosting is located at the same point as the cold generation, so will increase the efficiency of the process. On the other hand, the disadvantages are system complexity. Systems employing reverse cycle defrost are more complex in terms of design and installation. They require additional components such as a four-way valve and automated controls, which can increase initial and maintenance cost. Risk of liquid shock. There is a risk of refrigerant liquid flowing back into the compressor during the cycle changeover, which can cause several damages to the compressor if not handled properly. Wear from frequent cycle change. Frequent cycle change can accelerate component wear and reduce system life, especially in valves and compressor. The last method involves the use of a hot glycol solution, which is pumped through coils or pipes located inside the evaporator to melt the accumulated ice. At the start of the defrost, the glycol solenoid opens and the pump is activated. This hot glycol is directed to the evaporator, which has an independent circuit, and once finished by temperature or time, it cuts off and collects the glycol in the buffer tank. On the side of the advantages, hot glycol defrost is efficient and does not interrupt the system operation, as refrigeration can continue while the process is underway. In addition, hot glycol does not affect the temperature in the refrigerated area in the same way as the hot air, which can be beneficial in certain temperature-sensitive applications. On the other hand, the disadvantages requires an additional glycol pumping and circulation system, which can increase the complexity and the cost of the refrigeration system. Furthermore, a precise control system is needed to ensure that the glycol temperature is kept within the proper range to avoid damage to the operator. Finally, we can see an overview table of defrost types, their application, and the advantage and disadvantage that we are talking about. Thank you so much for your attention and see you in future videos.